Today I'm happy to rise in support of the Anti-Terrorism Act 2015 and our Conservative government's ongoing efforts to protect Canadians. In my remarks today, I would like to discuss the value of information sharing between federal government departments and why this is a necessary and important tool for CSIS in particular. However, before I address the substance of this bill before us today, I would like to take a moment to applaud our hardworking Minister of Finance for our government's investments to enhance national security through this year's budget by almost $300 million. Mr. Speaker, such funding will give the tools to our police and our national security agencies to keep our families and our communities safe. Now turning to the bill. The Security of Canada Information Sharing Act is an important new tool. This will ensure a coherent framework is in place for our intelligence and security agencies to reliably gain access to important information they need to investigate threats against Canadians. It will also be done in accordance with the mandate and lawful authorities of our intelligence and security agencies. Having such information sharing capabilities will allow and help CSIS to fully investigate and provide advice on terrorist plots and related activities before they develop, helping to ensure our national security. Over the last several years, the national security landscape has changed considerably. The threats we face today are more complex, more widespread, and can materialize more quickly than ever before. Accordingly, efficient and responsible information sharing across federal institutions is crucial. In today's complex and connected world, Mr. Speaker, timely and effective information sharing is essential to the identification and investigation of these threats. Cooperation between a range of institutions, including those not traditionally part of the national security community, is required in order to investigate and is required for investigative bodies such as CSIS to fulfill their mandate. The CSIS Act sets out legal authorities for the service to investigate and advise on threats to the security of Canada. CSIS collects information to the extent that it is strictly necessary from a wide variety of sources, including, in some cases, other government agencies. Many government departments collect information of direct relevance to active CSIS investigations. This information can be vital. And yet, while CSIS has a clear authority to collect information to fulfill its national mandate, many other government departments face uncertainty when deciding whether or not they have the authority to disclose information relevant to national security. This, Mr. Speaker, is an issue we need to address. And this legislation we're talking about today will address this shortcoming in our current security framework. To date, Mr. Speaker, agencies and departments have operated in an ambiguous environment, having relied on a patchwork of authorities not designed to facilitate information sharing for such purposes. This lack of certainty surrounding disclosure can cause delays, and it can even prevent access to information directly relevant to protecting Canadians. Mr. Speaker, with this current legal landscape in mind, with its delays and hurdles and uncertainties, I'm happy to say I'm speaking in favor and support of this legislation designed to ensure effective and responsible information sharing. The Security of Canada Information Sharing Act, which is included as part of Bill C-51, is the latest effort in our government's ongoing efforts to protect Canadians and our national security. In recognition of the impediments to the sharing of vital nationally security-related information between government departments, our government is taking clear action to protect Canadians. The Security of Canada Information Sharing Act will provide a clear authorization to Government of Canada institutions to disclose information related to national security purposes. Now, Mr. Speaker, I really want to stress this next point, especially after what the opposition has been saying today. This Act has been specifically tailored to incorporate safeguards in order to ensure the privacy and rights of Canadians are protected and respected. One such vital safeguard is that institutions can only disclose information to other Government of Canada institutions who have jurisdiction or responsibilities relating to activities that are relevant to the security of Canada. In effect, this Act encourages and facilitates domestic information sharing in order to aid in lawful and authorized investigations. As I've said, CSIS has the legal mandate and authority to collect information from a variety of sources. collecting of information must be done to the extent it is strictly necessary to the investigation of threats to the security of Canada. This will ensure that federal departments have a clear and unambiguous authority to share information relative to our national security. To be clear, it does not alter nor does it expand the mandate of designated recipients. Now, over the past several weeks, I've had the opportunity to speak with many residents in my riding of Macleod, and I can say here they are overwhelmingly in support of Bill C-51. However, some of the feedback I did receive was ensuring that the right of lawful protest was protected. With that in mind, I am pleased the Public Safety and National Security Committee passed an amendment to make it clear protest, dissent, and civil disobedience are not activities targeted by this legislation. Mr. Speaker, I am in support of this amendment as it provides greater assurances to Canadian civil rights. Their civil rights will be protected and respected. That is essential, and I know the residents in my riding of Macleod are going to be pleased that we have listened to their feedback. The Anti-Terrorism Act 2015 will ensure a reliable and effective framework is in place for CSIS to request access to the information it needs to investigate threats against the security of Canadians. In addition to those safeguards, this legislation does not affect or override any existing statutory prohibitions that govern domestic information sharing. Therefore, safeguards against the disclosure of particularly sensitive information remains in place. CSIS will continue to collect only the information strictly necessary to carry out its mandate. That is the law. In addition to the safeguards contained within the legislation, Mr. Speaker, there is also an important existing safeguard in the form of CIRC, the Security Intelligence Review Committee. CIRC has a robust and wide-ranging mandate with access to all of CSIS's holdings, with the exception of cabinet confidences. Canadians can be sure CIRC plays an important review role in the activities of CSIS, including in relation to the new measures proposed in Bill C-51. Again, it is important that we provide CIRC with the resources it needs to take on this important task. Through the recently announced budget, CIRC's funding will be doubled, providing it additional resources in which to ensure that CSIS uses information sharing appropriately, effectively, and within the bounds of the legislation before us today. In addition, it should also be noted, CSIS activities can be and are regularly reviewed by the Privacy Commissioner, and those recommendations can and are made public. As you can see, the Security of Canada Information Sharing Act, provisions included in the Anti-Terrorism Act 2015, encourage responsible and efficient information sharing between Government of Canada institutions for the purpose of protecting national security. Simply put, this legislation will protect the rights of Canadians while also allowing CSIS to protect our security. The Anti-Terrorism Act 2015 is another clear example of our government's ongoing efforts to strengthen national security and to ensure Canadians are protected from an emerging and multifaceted threat. Mr. Speaker, I think it's clear times have changed. This is not 1970 anymore. We are talking about new, high-tech, global threats facing Canadians. Threats that we have never faced before. Threats that are not only around the world, but unfortunately here at home. The Security of Canada Information Sharing Act, along with other measures in Bill C-51, complement a number of existing and recently introduced tools. These important tools will help protect Canadians from the considerable and complex threats we are now facing today to our national security. Those also include the RCMP's engagement with local communities to counter radicalization, which is also an important component of Bill C-51. I urge all members to support Bill C-51 and the budget, which will provide much-needed resources to enhance the capacity of our security and our law enforcement agencies, and also of CIRC. Thank you.